Mike Festa, State Director, AARP. A pleasure to be here. A pleasure to have you here. Let me just give you a quick lay of the land. In front of you, you've got your packet. You would have seen that we have an agenda which is jam-packed. And I want to start by observing that I think in this room we have an extraordinary group of folks who are engaged in the business of that social mission, frankly, which aligns very nicely with AARP. We're here to help people improve their lives, to make communities more livable, and in many ways what the age-friendly movement has been for all of us, one way or another, is acknowledging the critical importance of that as a society, as much as those of us who are policymakers and engaged in advocacy recognize this is about people's lives in neighborhoods, in community, and we need to get it right. And I think the assemblage we have today is certainly going to reflect that high-level thinking and serious purpose that we have. It's an honor to have an extraordinary panel that you're about to hear from, or not about to hear from pretty soon. But the first person I'm going to introduce is my boss. Nancy, I'm saluting you now. You got to look. Nancy Lamond, you can see from her bio, and you'll notice that there are bios for all panelists and all speakers, so I won't really say all of that. But I do want to make this point. Nancy Lamond has been an extraordinary force, not just in Washington as the head of federal advocacy. She is our face and our message to all communities across the country in what AARP has really become. It's a nationwide organization. It is true that Nancy is doing a lot of focused attention, as we obviously know, particularly now, with the healthcare debate and health security in particular. But more than that, Nancy has been leading the entire organization with about 700 employees focused on our work in community, as well as our work in states in terms of advocacy. So she has the full range of the work that, frankly, we do in Massachusetts, reporting up to the work that she is doing nationally. Nancy's in town as part of the National Conference of State Legislators, and she thought it would be a great idea. And I said this to Marty on the way in. I said, you know, this all happened because Nancy and Marty were together in Miami at the Conference of Mayors, and it was like, you know, we ought to do something in Boston. And that was Nancy's idea, and so it quickly became this. And I think that's, frankly, a testament to both Nancy and Marty's willingness to seize the moment. And so without further ado, I introduce to you Nancy Lamond of AARP. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mike, especially for that introduction. I have to tell you that I try to travel to the States during the annual budget season because the introductions are so much better during that period. But we're delighted to be here. Thank you, Mike. Thanks the entire AARP Massachusetts team, which, as all of you know, means staff and volunteers alike, to our terrific panel, and to the mayor for being here. I'm going to make a few introductory comments and then introduce the mayor, and mostly want to begin by thanking all of you. Mike mentioned that I have a special place in my heart for the work of Age Friendly. I studied city planning across the river in Cambridge, was blessed with graduating during a recession where there were no city planning jobs, so I ended up moving to Washington, working largely on federal issues. And a few years ago, when I went back to AARP, I thought, as we became more of a nationwide organization, how important it would be for us to be much more present in communities in this way. And a few years ago, we had 2 places in the country that were interested in working on it, and now we have virtually every state doing something. No state is doing quite as much as Massachusetts, but many are moving in the direction. They'll give you some competition. In fact, today, AARP staff and volunteers are working with community members in nearly 300 jurisdictions across the country, including 176 communities with 65 million residents that are members of the AARP network of age-friendly communities. Now, as we approach this work, and as I'm sure all of you do as well, it's critically important for us to be intentionally intergenerational. And a community that's good for an 8-year-old is going to be good for an 80-year-old, and that is hugely important to us. Now, as we look around the country and think about this, we have a few things that we try to focus on. First, there's a great and growing need as our country ages for the work you and I are doing. We are aging every state and the majority of our cities, and almost 46 million Americans are 65 and older today, and that figure is going to rise to 73 million by 2030. Massachusetts is going to see its 65-plus population grow by 60% between now and 2030. Second, we know that the vast majority of people want to continue to live independently and with dignity in their communities, and yet many places are simply not yet ready. We did a survey with the U.S. Conference of Mayors of 108 mayors across the country and found that 9 out of 10 said that aging issues were really important, but 4 in 10 have not yet established any aging-focused initiatives. We know that that is not the case here in Boston and look forward to hearing more about it. So we know that in other places we have a lot of work we still have to do. And third, we know that local communities are where real changes happen. We all care deeply about the places where we live and feel connected to our local issues, and consider how people describe their trust in various levels of government. While just 19% of the public thinks that the federal government will do the right thing when solving problems, 19%, a full 71% of the public thinks that the local government will do the right thing. This is a huge opportunity and a huge responsibility. Your neighbors are looking to all of you to make a difference. So we know we need to take action, and besides facing down these challenges, there are also incredible upsides for communities that successfully leverage the skills and talents of the 50-plus population. Of course, that's always easier said than done, but there are 3 key opportunities we're keeping our eyes on, and we know you are as well. First, older Americans are driving the economy forward. In 2015, the so-called longevity economy, the sum of all economic activity that people 50 and older contribute to, added $7.6 trillion to the U.S. economy, and that's a third of our GDP, and it's growing fast. We can also feel this at the local level. Atlanta recently studied the effect of attracting retirees to the Atlanta metro area, and they found an additional 1,000 new residents aged 65 plus would generate $7.8 billion increase in Atlanta's GDP, which leads to my second point. Second, the business case for great communities is simple, and particularly for municipal governments, and we have to continue to make this case and broaden our stakeholders and our constituencies as we move forward. Polling shows boomers and millennials have similar preferences for walkable neighborhoods, good transportation options, diverse and affordable housing, and employment and volunteer opportunities. We also know a CEO of the City study found that a 1-point increase in the walk score raised the value of homes by as much as $3,000. So cities and communities that take action are reaping some economic rewards. And then third, and this is important, investors are increasingly interested in age-friendly communities, and they're ready to act. And across the country, large foundations, community foundation, and private funders are increasingly invested in creating more livable, walkable communities. And we especially appreciate the leadership of the Tufts Health Plan Foundation here in Massachusetts. It's not only important for what they're doing in Massachusetts, but the signal it sends to foundations across the country has been hugely important. We've tracked this for many years, and frankly, we didn't see the traction that we've seen over the last year or so until we and others were able to kind of point to what is happening here in Massachusetts. Now, as we move forward, as Mike said, AARP is committed to improving the nation's communities in partnership with you and local leaders everywhere. We've just launched the 2nd edition of a book called Where We Live to continue to collect creative ideas, things that are happening everywhere, and try to spread them across the country. At one of my early visits to the U.S. Conference of Mayors meetings, I heard from all mayors that they love to be the second. They love to steal ideas from other places. We thought, wouldn't it be great for us to be, present at this wonderful moment of theft? And so we want you to download and then get the actual print copy of Where We Live. We're going to continue to spotlight good work as we continue this. We also have toolkits do-it-yourself the communities can use. We have a website, email distribution. All of this is designed to provide help in any way we possibly can. Moving forward, we're going to create, I was just telling Nora, we're going to create a SWAT team of staff who have had experience in communities of all sizes in helping in the planning process. We know that can be it can be overwhelming for communities, and if we can provide some help with people who've done it before, have this on-hand experience, we think it's going to be important. And as many of you know, we just completed a micro-grant competition, the AARP Community Action Challenge, and we'll be announcing the results in a couple of weeks. With an application period open for just 6 weeks, we received applications for 1,100 projects with an average ask of $2,500, proving that a little money can go a long way. So I hope you'll follow us as we announce those later on, and just know that we remain very, very committed to this effort, not only here in Massachusetts, but in every state in the country. With that, I want to take this opportunity to introduce your mayor, and of your mayor and local leader, Boston Mayor Marty Walsh. For Mayor Walsh, a livable community is about far more than inclusion and basic services. It's about creating a city where older adults can truly thrive socially, physically, and economically. Through plans like Vision Zero and Go Boston 2030, Boston's transportation plan, Mayor Walsh has made it a priority to make Boston even safer and the most walkable city in America. He's also leading an ambitious endeavor to add more than 50,000 new units of housing by 2030, with a focus on affordability and senior housing. And he wants to make sure that the people who made this city what it is today are able to stay in the neighborhoods they love. With the launch of Boston's thoughtful and thorough age-friendly action plan this past May, Mayor Walsh laid out his blueprint to make Boston a world-class city that everyone can thrive in. And if all that isn't enough, he is chair of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Children, Health, and Human Services Standing Committee, and he is also a leading voice in fighting to protect health care and federal programs that benefit older adults. And finally, I would be remiss if I did not mention that one of my favorite Mayor Walsh initiatives was a recent proposal announced to add cutting-edge technology to Boston's busiest streets to better move traffic, an approach that I'm personally hope will be stolen immediately by the mayor of Washington, D.C., so that my miserable commute can be improved. With that, I think it shows the range of innovative things happening here in Boston, and I am delighted to be able to introduce to you Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you very much, Nancy, and I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I want to thank Nancy and the work of AARP. I know you're one of the main reasons why the Senate had momentarily lapse of common sense the other day and voted down the health care bill, at least for now. And I want to thank you for your advocacy. It's a big bill for a lot of people, and our older Americans certainly are affected by this bill as well, and so I appreciate that. To my friend Michael Festa, thank you, Michael, for always your support, and everyone's heard this before. He's my former colleague in the House of Representatives, so I kind of get a chuckle thinking of us both in our new roles. Carol Malone, thank you very much as well. From the state. Sandy Albright, I have to give Sandy Albright a shout out because I do. Emily Shea, our elderly commissioner in the city of Boston, who does an incredible job. All of this that we talk about, that I get a chance to announce and talk about, it's Emily and her staff's work that does it, so thank you, Emily, for the great work you do. All the panelists are going to be up later on. Thank you for your being involved here as well today. It's an important conversation topic. As an age-friendly city, it's one with more opportunities than barriers, where accessibility is built into everything we do. So we're going to continue to, as we work on age-friendly Boston, to make sure that we continue to integrate everything we can in different parts of life. I grew up in a multi-generational neighborhood. What does that mean? That means that we had, it was very diverse, it was very different. We had, the older person across the street, we had the younger kids down the street, we had us, we had a lot of different people, and that was important for us. My mother still lives in that same neighborhood that I grew up in. When I say, I didn't move that far away, I moved literally, in Dorchester we don't go too far, so my first move was a block and a half. My second move was about 4 blocks, and then I made a big move. I mean, we moved about 2 miles down the road the other day, so, you know, that's the big move. But my mother still lives in the neighborhood that I grew up in. She's been able to grow older in the community that she loves. It's a walkable community. In April, I turned 50, and when I turned 50, a couple days later, I literally went to my mailbox and I saw the AARP, and I opened it up, and I'm like, oh man, I haven't got my month magazine yet, so I have to talk to Mike Fresh about it because I know there's a magazine. But you know, my mother and myself are from different generations, but we know what it means to be from a neighborhood that's livable, and that's important. It's a place where opportunities can reach everyone of different ages and abilities. That's the spirit that we're driving our age-friendly work here in the city of Boston. In Boston, we believe that the way we treat older adults reflects on who we are as a people and who we are as a government. They are the ones who built this city, and oftentimes when I get a chance to talk to the seniors, I let them know that you are the people that built our city. You gave me the opportunity to serve as mayor of the city of Boston. They are also active and they're passionate citizens. They are our fastest growing population here in the city of Boston, and they continue to define what makes us unique as a city. That's why we don't get to think of age-friendly as a standalone policy. It's a way we look at everything we do, from parks to transportation to housing, everything that we can possibly do. We've made a $240 million investment in the last 4 years in our park system, and that's not just for the kids, it's for our older adults as well, making sure there's a place for them to go. We've come a long way in the last 3 years. We've joined the World Health Organization Global Age-Friendly Cities Network. We've launched the Boston Alzheimer's Initiative. We've trained the first responders on dementia. We unveiled a memory cafe which unites people with dementia and caregivers. We have Internet Essentials working with our companies, Comcast, and we're going to be partnering with some other companies to make sure that people have access to training for our low-income adults, and make sure that people understand that they can connect through the internet. Imagine Boston 2030 is the first master plan in 50 years in the city of Boston that we've done in our city, and in that, age-friendly principles are every step of the way. So when we think about how do we move our city forward as a city, we think about also our older Bostonians and how do they move along with that same growth. Older Bostonians themselves are the ones who guided and shaped all the programs that we're announcing and that I've talked about today. All of the stuff that I've talked about didn't come from me, it didn't come from the people around me. It came from bringing people in and having conversations about what we want to see the future of the city, how we want to see our age-friendly plan carried out. Also, they're helping us see how we can integrate age-friendly principles in everything that we do. Let's take walkability for a minute. Under our Vision Zero plan, we've reduced the default speed limit in the city of Boston to 25 miles per hour. We made our walk signals longer, despite some of the press saying that if you push a button, it doesn't work. It does work. We've incorporated leading pedestrian intervals to help pedestrians stay safer crossing the street. We've added speed radar monitors all over the city. We're going to do more of those. Those of you that aren't from Boston. Who's from Boston here in the room? Who's not from Boston? Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, we have these signs that they're solar powered, and they're speed limit signs. So you have a posted speed limit sign of 25 miles per hour. On top of it, you have the black box for the radar gun, and it's solar powered. So when you're driving down the street, you see how fast you're going. It's actually helping us calm traffic down. We're ordering more of those and getting more of those into the city of Boston. We've added more curb cuts in our city, and we're leading a process right now of repainting and restriping the entire city of Boston. It's going to take us 2.5 years to do that, but new crosswalks and new bike lanes and all over the city of Boston so that pedestrians understand the importance of them, where they can make it safer for them, but also for drivers to kind of pay attention to what's happening in our city. So we're working on that. Vision Zero is a great example of something that aging community knows to be true. Things that help older residents have the benefits for all our residents. Seniors are also helping us drive our housing initiatives. As part of our housing plan, we're creating 53,000 units of new housing by the year 2030. It's a plan we launched in October of 2014. Why do we do it? We did it because our city's growing. We're trying to capture the millennials and keep them in our city, and we have baby boomers that want to move back into our city. And we're busting at the seams. And we're seeing rents driving up, and we're seeing costs going up. And we're like, okay, how do we create more opportunities to try and stabilize rents? How do we create more opportunities for living space? So we launched a housing plan, Imagine Boston 2030. In that plan, we're well ahead of schedule. We've invested $100 million in housing already, the city of Boston, through inclusionary development and other means of funding into building new affordable housing. We've created more than 13,500 units that are complete, 8,400 more under construction. We've set specific target goals for senior housing in the city of Boston. 5,000 of these units we want specifically for older Bostonians. That's on top of the housing stock that we have. That's on top of the housing stock we have with the Boston Housing Authority. These are brand new units that we're looking to build in the city of Boston. 1,500 of those are going to be deemed affordable or dedicated affordable housing in the city. We have a ways to go to hit these goals, but we are dedicated to hitting these targets, especially when it comes to older adults. Housing is more than a roof over your head. It means wraparound services, because many times when we build the buildings, we have wraparound services in those buildings. It means living a social life as well. I often, when I was a state representative before I was the mayor, I had about 8 or 9 senior buildings that I'd go to my district on. And when I'd go there, I'd see the life that the people in those buildings had, because it brought life to them. Many of their families weren't around, but they were living with other adults who loved to go out. Somebody had a car, and next thing they were going out to dances. So it was important for me when I became mayor, the work that the Elderly Commission was doing, to keep it moving forward and even doing more, because we have proms and socials and different types of events for our seniors that they love to get all dolled up for and coming out to. And it keeps them active. And that's something that's really important for us as well, to keep our seniors active, to keep them moving forward. 2 weeks ago, I joined the Jewish Community Housing for the Elderly to celebrate the expansion of their 700 units of affordable housing, affordable community in Brighton, Massachusetts, which is not too far from here. I saw the power of supportive housing in action. Residents enjoying programming, health care, even resources for formerly homeless neighbors, right there in that building. We had people, we've been able to house in Boston, in the city, over the last 3.5 years, 1,100 chronically homeless people. 80%, 90%, probably 90+% of them are elderly, are older Bostonians. They were living on the streets for a decade or 2 decades, and now they're living in an apartment. And with the wraparound services, so it's key as we think about building out these different housing opportunities, that there's programs there. These are the types of holistic housing solutions we're investing all over our city, and hopefully other cities will steal what we're doing. I think we've come a long way in the city of Boston, but here's the thing about Boston: we have no use for good enough. We're always striving to be better, and our older neighbors deserve the best. This spring, we took a major step to make this best possible city grow in releasing our Age-Friendly Boston Action Plan. I'd like to take a moment to thank those who brought the Age-Friendly Boston Plan to life. First of all, Commissioner Emily Shea and her talented team from the Elderly Commission. Thank you. You're here. We love you. You do great work. Thank you, Boston Elderly Commission. Andrea Burns, Director of Age-Friendly Boston. The AARP was a driving force behind this plan. Thank you, AARP. UMass Boston, our partner and co-author, and the Tufts Health Plan Foundation. Thank you very much, Tufts and UMass Boston. Age-Friendly Boston is a plan, is a roadmap to making sure our city works for everybody. It works hand in hand with all of our planning efforts, as I said earlier, including Imagine Boston 2030, including Go Boston 2030. That's our transportation plan for the future as we move forward. Age-Friendly Boston Action Plan represents 2 years of interviews and listening sessions. We spoke to more than, well, actually the commission spoke to more than 4,000 older adults from every neighborhood in different languages in the city of Boston. Think about that for a minute when you think about having input in your government. 4,000, some of the adults, some of the older Bostonians are here with us today. Thank you. Put input into this plan. Of this input, we created the guiding principles for 75 action steps across 8 focus areas or domains. These 75 steps include best practices that aging community will be familiar with. Things that help with home repairs, more reliable transportation, access to parks. We're also going to pilot some really bold initiatives and ideas that older adults in Boston have proposed. We're going to try new things like getting more older adults involved in policy making at City Hall, facilitating LGBT awareness trainings for private seniors housing providers, and even a home share network that will connect older homeowners who have spare rooms with local grads searching for housing to help them be able to create a little more revenue for themselves as well. This plan was driven by Boston and the residents in our city, but it's a blueprint that can be applied to other cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but throughout the United States. It's a roadmap full of specific, creative ideas that can work in several different ways in different communities. I'm incredibly proud, as I said earlier, of the work of Commissioner Shea and her team. Every day, they're in the neighborhoods making sure older adults play a central role in citywide planning. These are the people who make Boston what it is today. They're upfront designing our future as well. Throughout Massachusetts, we're building a network of age-friendly communities. The process we're making here has a ripple effect and reach beyond the borders of the cities and towns. This work is reaching the national stage. We're showing what it really means to be age-friendly. We're proud that this can be done. And together, we're fighting the programs for older adults, making sure that they're there, that they depend upon. We're telling Washington loud and clear, do not turn your backs on our communities, especially our seniors. Together, we're standing up against reckless healthcare repeals and cruel budget cuts. As I said, thank you for your advocacy and work on the Affordable Care Act, because I honestly think that you made the difference in that act. We're also working on a lifeline to reach millions of seniors in Massachusetts on HUD grants, which are vital for our senior housing. We're working to make sure we continue to grow our housing. The HUD grants situation happened long before this administration. It was going back to the last administration. We need to continue to pound on Congress and the Senate to let them understand the importance of funding HUD grants, making sure that they need to invest in affordable housing, not retreat from it, but increase and get into it. We also want to make sure that community development block grants, which fund crucial services like senior home repair and heating services, are funded. Now, I know that in the last budget we're okay, but that doesn't mean that the TAC isn't going to come on. We shouldn't even be talking about this when the budget comes up. This should be an automatic, we're going to fund this and move on to something new. But unfortunately, in this era, it's not that case. The list goes on, and so will we. We will continue to fight for the resources family and older adults need to thrive. We are proud to have strong partners like AARP, and I want to thank AARP for being a voice in the well-being of older adults, older Bostonians, older Massachusetts, older Americans for a long time. We're going to stand with you whenever we have to stand with you to fight with you. We especially want to thank the role you've played in just working with us here in the city of Boston, because you've been a tremendous partner with us. I want to thank Michael, Sandy, and other folks for the great work that you've done and the guidance you've had. I want to thank all of you today, all of the partners here today, for being part of this conversation. This is an important dialogue, an important conversation. Down the hall, down the street, as you heard, we have the National Conference of Legislators in Boston today. Every single one of those legislators, in order to get elected, goes to the senior buildings, the senior centers, the senior corners, every single one of them. Trust me, I know. That doesn't mean that when they get elected, they can forget. They can't forget their older citizens. So it's important for us all to remind everybody that we just don't ask our older citizens when we need their vote. We should be there for them every single day. Together, we're all creating in this room, many of you are creating an age-friendly Massachusetts that's accessible and inclusive, affordable and welcoming, where opportunities reach everyone. We may approach it from different perspectives. Some of us from the public sector, some of us from the private sector, some of us in this room from the nonprofit sector. But we believe in lifting all people up. That's why we got this work to do. No one deserves it more than the people who made our community what we are today. We owe it to our older Bostonians. We owe it to our older Americans. And it's a privilege for me and an honor for me to serve them and work with them every single day. I want to thank all of you again for making Boston, the Commonwealth, a place where more opportunities and barriers are knocked down and where everyone can thrive. And I know I can't stick around for the panel, but I know we're excited about hearing the panel. It's going to be a great conversation today. And again, thank you for being here today, and to AARP, again, thank you for your great work on behalf of all of our team.
Gotta love that guy. One of us. Marty. Yeah, literally, you are one of us right now. And we'll make sure that magazine comes out. I should have brought it. It's down on the 23rd floor. We'll get it to him before. Emily, we're going to count on you to give it to him. Thank you, Mayor. Your points were so well taken, and I think is thematic of what we're trying to accomplish today, which acknowledge that Boston's leadership in the work, but also appreciating that in every nook and cranny of the Commonwealth, there are other paths to success in terms of how communities address the age-friendly challenge. It's my pleasure right now to introduce Carol Malone. Many of you know Carol from her work over many years at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. I know that Sandy Albright, our state president, worked very closely with Carol when she was undersecretary. I had that honor for a time when I was secretary. But I just want to say in introducing Carol, you know, Carol personifies in many ways how government gets it when they hire people like her. You know, she came from the field. She came actually from the State House working for Mike Cahill. She has spent many, many years working with the Councils on Aging, working on the home care program, getting engaged in the work on a daily basis. And I think it's key to have leadership like yours, Carol, when we talk about age-friendly, because the intersection of how the state government promotes these kinds of programs and works with community, works with nonprofits like us, really makes it happen effectively. And you are the one that really has done the job. And I know Alice would say the same thing, Alice Bonner, the secretary, who was unable to be here. But the truth of the matter is you are really focused on this, and it matters a lot. So without further ado, Carol, please come up.
Thank you so much. Those are very sweet words. I hope I can live up to all those accolades. Really lovely. But I have to say, it's just a pleasure to be here this morning. I feel like I'm with a friendly crowd, know so many of you, and it's just so exciting to be here. And yes, unfortunately, Secretary Bonner was not able to be with us. She is out of state, but I'm happy to be here on behalf of her and all your friends and colleagues at Elder Affairs. I want to start with just defining that a key strategy to facilitate the inclusion of older persons is to make our state more age-friendly. An age-friendly world enables all people of all ages to actively participate in community activities and treats everyone with respect, regardless of their age. It is a place that makes it easy for older adults to stay connected with the people that are important to them. And it helps people stay healthy and active. When we think about age-friendly and we think about housing and home is health. It is all connected. It helps people stay healthy and active even at the oldest of ages and provides appropriate support as their health changes or declines. Healthy aging is much more than the presence or absence of disease or disability. It encompasses all aspects of a person's life, including the ability to stay involved with friends and family in community where they've lived, where they've worked, where they've raised their families, where they feel that they have a purpose and find meaning in life, where they feel safe and secure, where they can physically stay active, where they can be proactive in managing one's health. I'm thinking about the comments that the mayor made, and Nancy and Mike, and of my own dad, who still lives in the community that he raised 7 children, has 19 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren and yeah, that's it. 7 great-grandchildren. That's enough, right? I'm like always trying to keep track of it. And he still lives in the home that he raised his family with my mother for over 57 years. And he'll often say to me, I don't know, honey, do you think I should leave? Do you think I should move? Maybe I should go here. Your brother thinks I should. I said, it doesn't matter what my brother thinks. It's about you. It's about what you want, Dad. If this is where you want to be, this is where you should be. And I'm thrilled to know that he is still in the community that's so important to him, where he has lived and worked and raised his family and still feels connected and involved and engaged in his church, regardless of health and other issues that he has to deal with on a daily basis. The Center for Disease and Control defines aging in place as the ability to live in one's own home and community safely, independently and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. In Massachusetts, we are proud, and we all should be proud, to support individuals' ability to live in the setting of their choice. In fact, we spend well over 65% of funding for long-term services and supports on community services rather than institutional long-term care, and we have done this together. It isn't done alone or in a vacuum. It is done with a forum and a group like that is gathered here today. We know that almost 90% of older adults over age 65, they want to stay in their home for as long as possible. I know that I do. An example for this is our state home care program, designed to assist older adults with services and supports so that can remain independent, live in the community, helping with chores or meals or adult day health, personal care, and many, many other. These services available to assist older adults, help them live independently, they all align with building and supporting an age-friendly state. Affordable, accessible housing options that accommodate an array of support services as an individual's health, functional, and cognitive needs change are also critical to supporting the aging and community movement. We need to continue to build on the unique strengths of this aging network. Opportunities exist now to better prepare for oncoming demographics, such as age-friendly communities, workforce development, caregiver supports, intergenerational programming. Each of us needs to consider how we can be part of making the Commonwealth age-friendly. What policies and practices can we change to enhance the quality of life for all older adults? We share in this responsibility, I'm sure you will all agree, to ensure a positive and safe and supportive environment for every person aging in our state. We want to create and support a culture where older adults can continue to lead healthy and productive lives in the Commonwealth. Older adults can be, they want to be, and they must be part of the solution. As we continue to support this movement and look at the city of Boston as an age-friendly champion and mentor, and embrace forums like this one here today, we move the work forward in making Massachusetts the best state to live in and age in for all ages and abilities. It is an important goal to keep in mind with every initiative we embark on. On behalf of Secretary Alice Bonner, and I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart, all your friends and colleagues at Elder Affairs, thank you for inviting us to be part of today's discussion.